Here we are. That's me. I'm Ron Burridge. I'm the founder of Courage Creative. I do creative strategy and direction. I was a part of the P&G family for about 7 years, working in design across beauty, fabric and home care, and ultimately decided to leave Procter and Gamble after an amazing assignment in Geneva, Switzerland, leading hair care design. Um, the monthly enrichment series is something, if you don't have on your calendars, I would highly recommend putting a placeholder. These take place every second Tuesday of the month at 9 a.m. If you go to pngalums.com, the calendar is always up. It's a monthly series. Our goal here is to connect other members of the Alumni Association with each other, providing insight and leveraging truly the expertise of such a huge, diverse set of alum. We have over 35,000 members in our P&G alumni network. There's 45 chapters around the globe. We're officially recognized and sponsored by P&G. And it really is about building connections, enrichments, and philanthropy among the organization. If you are in a part of the world where you would like to lead or join an alumni association chapter, if there is not one near you, you can send a question to hello at PNG Alums, and we can either help put you in touch with a local chapter, or we can put you on a path to perhaps start a chapter in your own community. Something really exciting. This was one of my first interactions with the alumni association. I joined our global conference in Washington, D.C., and I have to say it was so amazing to get to meet so many amazing people that I had met in passing along the way or I had just heard of, but really reconnect with colleagues that have also left P&G and learn what they've done since their time. We always go back to, P&G being one of the best experiences, certainly professionally, and a huge part of that is the people that we meet and had met along the way. So I highly recommend our upcoming conference is in 2025 in June in Berlin. And if you are interested, you can go to the P&G alumni website. All the registration information is there. And certainly I speak for, all of the members of the P&G Alumni Association. We would certainly love to see you there. So today we have such an amazing enrichment series. We are joined by three incredible leaders. Janet Butler, who is currently a board member for the United Way Ghana, and she is part of the P&G Alumni Foundation. Janet spent 24 years with P&G in engineering and product supply. She was at the Greenville plant, and she has been a part of the United Way for over 14 years. Teri List is a retired executive and experienced board member. She has 20 years experience with P&G, culminating in the role of SVP and treasurer. She began her career in public accounting with Deloitte. And lastly, we have Juliana Azevedo, who is joining us this morning from Brazil. We are so excited to have her. She is the current president of Global Home Care and P&G Professional. She's the executive sponsor for gender equality. She's been with P&G for 29 years. She began her career at P&G in Brazil, and she is making her way to Geneva, Switzerland. She is a board member of the United Way Worldwide. So we're very excited to have these amazing, talented alum and current P&G employees join us this morning. I'm going to ask them to go ahead and take themselves off mute. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to open up our forum. I do think it's really important to get a little bit of insight to why this enrichment series was so important and why the topic of this webinar came up. So it is well researched and documented that gender balanced teams, especially on boards, continually outperform others. And at the same time, there are women who are actively looking to join board positions, and there are organizations actively seeking to increase their board member diversity. But oftentimes, it's really hard to connect the dots. And we heard that from a lot of our P&G alum. The board program at the P&G Alumni Network Leadership Forum, the Women's Leadership Forum, it's an initiative dedicated to help connect those dots and foster and advance women's leadership globally. The program unites exceptional women leaders who have built distinguished business platforms through their experiences in P&G and in other further at other companies. These leaders bring extensive experience across various functions, regions, and they share their commitment to leadership values and ethical decision makers. And that's what today's conversation is all about. We have three inspiring P&G leaders, past and present, and they're going to discuss their experiences, the impact that women can have on boards, the impact that that P&G alum bring to boards, and you'll get to hear a little bit firsthand about how they've championed change in these institutions and industries where they're board members. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can see our speakers. And I'm going to go ahead and open the Q&A just so everyone knows. The Q&A is open. If you have a question, feel free to drop it in the Q&A. If we can answer it as we go along, excellent. If not, we will go ahead and pick up at the end of the conversation. And also, if we don't get a chance to answer all of the questions, we'll make sure that we answer them separately. So it might be either connecting you with Juliana or Teri or Janet and sending your question directly to them and getting an answer from you. But with that, I would love to open the floor. It looks like, Janet, you are ready to go. You're off mute. I would love for you to do that. That's the default, right? If you're off mute, you're first to go. So thanks. I would love to open the floor to get a little bit more background on you, and would love to hear about your first experience on a board, what board it was, and what value do you feel being a P&G alum brought to that board and brought to them selecting you to join the board?
Okay, so I am signing in from Accra, Ghana. So it's good afternoon for me, and happy to be here today with everyone. We started with my first board experience, which was actually more a board exposure. I was the managing director for a for-profit company here in Ghana. And so I got to participate, obviously, in board meetings. And what it did is it provided me with exposure to what boards do, how they work, and an understanding of the work of a board and what it really means to be an effective board member. Fast forward a couple years down the line, and we had a group get together here in Ghana to decide that we wanted to start a United Way here in Ghana. And so I became part of the founding group and eventually was selected as the founding board chair. So the question is, why me? What did I do? Was I the right person in the right place? And I think to a large extent, that's why. My knowledge of how boards operate, my understanding of and commitment to the mission of the organization, United Way, certainly was important. But I think the most important thing, particularly when you talk about not-for-profit boards, is your willingness to offer your time, your talent, and your treasure towards the success of the organization. So my first exposure was United Way Ghana, founding board chair, and I believe I was there because of my commitment to the organization and my willingness to offer what I had to ensure that the organization was successful.
Awesome. Thank you, Janet. That was great. Juliana, would you like to go?
Absolutely. So good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Honored to be here with P&G colleagues, because alumni or current employee, we are always a P&G colleague, and colleagues from United Way as well. Hi, Janet. Pleasure to meet you. So I'm Brazilian. I am currently, as described, working for P&G. And my first board experience was actually when I rejoined the Brazil organization, come back from the US. in 2018. And the experience presented itself as I really wanted to drive a greater impact in my home country, particularly in education and social. And I was interested on how could I move from just doing activities that felt more like charity to really doing social impact. And I actually then got invited by United Way Brazil to join their board because of the P&G chair that I occupy. And the board of United Way in Brazil is actually associated to companies that have a connection to the institution. And it was such a beautiful catalyzer to understand really the transformation that I was willing to engage. Further on the same year, I actually helped form the first UNICEF board in Brazil in over 70 years, also with the institution, with the intention, of enlarging the impact of such a powerful organization, and really understanding, I think, on those situations, how the strategic thinking with the bias for action that we learn in P&G could be applied also to the third sector, done in a collaborative way, because it is one that I realize tends to operate in a more individual manner. I have had the chance to be the chairman of both boards. And then as I then became regional leader, I led the regional board of United Way. And in this global competence now, I am trying to serve the same objective, but at a global level. So delighted to be here and in a continuous learning journey.
Excellent. Thank you, Juliana. Teri, how about you?
Thanks, Ron, and hello to everyone, and kudos to you for finding the time in busy days to participate in these sessions, and really happy to be here. At the risk of sounding like a mercenary capitalist following those two wonderful summaries of experience, mine was a little different. I left P&G in 2013 and had a number of CFO roles over the next, I guess, 7 or 8 years. And but my first board opportunity, for-profit board opportunity, came while I was still at P&G as the treasurer. Prior to getting that opportunity, I had sat on a couple of not-for-profit boards, but I really think the journey between a not-for-profit and a for-profit board is really quite different. And so I was, frankly, just very lucky that back in 2011, I guess it was, I got a call from a recruiter, and they introduced me to the founder and chair of the board of Danaher, and I met with them. And, frankly, I was quite flattered because I didn't understand how the for-profit board process worked. I wouldn't have expected to get a call. I thought it would be really exciting to be on a board. So when I met with them, I then did my due diligence on both the company and kind of the reasons why, because I had been told, and I think this language is still out there even today, but I had been told not to join a board where their first criteria was looking for a woman. And in this case, they were looking for a woman. And as you know, from my background at P&G, I was in finance. They were looking for a financial expert. So they had a very specific requirement that they were trying to meet. And I did get the advice from a couple to be really thoughtful about the culture of the board, and from a couple to say no if I was being recruited as a woman. I ignored the latter advice, but I paid attention to the former advice. And I really thought about, is this a board that I felt like I could be successful in, that I could contribute to, that I could feel a part of? And I did that by talking to other board members, by talking to their auditors, by talking to some of the people from banks that I knew who knew them. And I came away from it feeling good about the opportunity, despite what the stated objective of the search was. My two big learnings from that are, one, you can't underestimate the value of your network. And we could talk about that later on in terms of how to think about obtaining a board role. And the second is to be willing to follow your own gut and to recognize that what's far more important than the specific criteria of the search are how you feel about the company, the industry, and the people on the board and on the management team. And in every situation where I've joined a board, I've started with 1 or 2 women on the board, and thankfully, in almost all cases, the diversity of the board has gone up to at least half in almost all cases over the time I've been there. So somebody has to start the change, and so I would not be hesitant about that.
Excellent. That's such a good point. I also do some nonprofit board work primarily with theaters, and I've really seen a major shift in just the diversity of board members. You know, of course, from a gender point of view, but also from an ethnicity point of view. People in the theater, out of the theater, and the diversity is really what makes a board. Particularly a nonprofit board, kind of thrive, right? Because you need the talents of so many people. So excellent, excellent answer. Thank you for sharing, Teri. I will say, and at the beginning of the call, Janet did mention she has spotty Wi-Fi in Ghana, so she may duck out and come back in if her Wi-Fi goes out. It looks like she may have ducked out at the moment. But so I'm going to ask this question to both Juliana and Teri. Can you share a little bit of the differences of what it's like to be a C-suite executive member versus a board member? Oh, hi, Janet. So happy you're okay. She's maybe just preserving the camera. That's good. That's good. The difference between being a C-level executive and being a board member, just top level on that.
Teri, do you want to go first?
Sure, I'm happy to. I mean, I think there is a very clear distinction. As a C-level person, you're used to setting the direction and monitoring very closely the execution because you have clear accountability to deliver not just on the strategy, but the execution and the results. As a board member, you're not in there to do the work. You're in there to help provide perspective on the strategy, to feel good about the talent that's in place to be able to deliver on the strategy, and then to provide critical thinking on that can be helpful in the day-to-day execution. But you're not in there doing the work. And as I've seen newer board members come on, or as I've mentored people who have sort of struggled with their fit on the board, I think understanding that delineation between governance and oversight and management is so important. And sometimes it can be really hard because we're used to, particularly as Procter people, we're used to going in and fixing and doing and getting things done and being accountable. And as a board, it's really quite a different role. And so that can be a little bit hard to adapt to. And of course, it varies by size of company. I was on a private company that went public, and I found in that situation, I was inside the board meetings acting very much like a board member, but outside the board meetings, spending a lot of time with their CFO, who was transitioning to his first public company CFO role. And he just needed a lot of advice and support. And so it was a very different experience. At Microsoft, the CFO is not calling me to ask how to do their job. So it's just a very different experience.
I have little to build because I think Teri hit the nerve. Perhaps the one suggestion that I would give is that joining a board, you clearly understand what are the rules that are normally well established on expectations of the boards, as well as the responsibilities, both legally and fiduciary, because a lot is talked about the kind of the glamorous side of joining a board, and I think that applies for profit and non-profit. And I think coming from P&G, that we had such a beautiful ecosystem to support us from legal, from GBS, from finance, that's kind of check all the boxes for us not to get exposure. I've seen colleagues that have not truly understood the scope of the responsibility and the liability that comes when you accept a board position. So that would be perhaps the only view that I have from Teri. And then I think in most boards, for-profit and non-profit, you will be asked to join different committees. So in the United Way, the global one, I joined the audit committee. And that is perhaps the one forum where you are able to get a little bit of your hands and your feet wet and get a little bit of things done, more than in the overall board environments, where, as Teri mentioned, you're more on a governance responsibility, asking the right questions, rather than really seeing it through the execution.
Excellent. Janet, did you have anything you wanted to add to that one?
I've been, I did everything possible to avoid having internet problems. And of course, I'm having internet problems. Are you on the C-suite versus board question?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I heard most of what Teri said, and also I think most of what Juliana said. I think the only thing I would also add is the distinction or nuance of a not-for-profit board. As a member of the C-suite in a for-profit organization, you're focused on profit. As a member of a board of a not-for-profit, you're focused. First of all, I said it earlier, it's really about your time, talent, and treasure, bringing resources to the organization. And the focus is on helping the organization maximize its value to the community that you serve. So versus a profit focus, you're more focused on providing value to the communities that you serve.
Excellent. Thank you. Great answers. Very insightful. So as we continue on in the conversation and, people start to get excited about, oh, this sounds like it's for me. Is there anything that you did to kind of brand yourself in terms of what you would bring to the board? So we'll talk a little bit about what specifically P&G brings to a P&G experience brings to boards, but you yourself, how do you brand yourself? What are the key strengths or experiences that you talk about to kind of get your name out there and to get excitement, in board leadership, and certainly at different spectrums and stages of career, whether you're currently employed and this is like something you do on the side, or as a retiree, this is really something that you aspire to do. Can anyone talk a little bit about that?
Perhaps I can get Janet, do you want to get started? Just because we benefit that your internet is working.
I'm on the internet, right? Well, yeah, there's a couple of things I'd like to say. First, just generally and about my own experience. I think Teri specifically talked about how boards are often looking for specifics. Oftentimes boards want a finance person or somebody with a marketing background or someone with expertise in education or pediatric medicine or whatever. So obviously looking for opportunities where you kind of can fill that gap is very important. For my own experience, I know that the most important thing sometimes to being part of a board is just letting people know you want to be part of a board. So kind of being out there and advertising your willingness to be part of a board. I do that a lot and often. So I'm in and out of boards, both nonprofit and for-profit, have been over time. I highlight my executive management experience. I don't think any of us who are P&G alumni take for granted the things we have learned from being part of Procter Gamble. Can you hear me? Okay. And, apart from that, it's what knowledge do I bring? In my particular case, I have a hell of a network with donors in Africa. So that is something that and knowledge of the development landscape on this continent. So as I look for board opportunities for not-for-profits, I talk about that. And I'm also very well connected to donor networks. Very, very important when you're part of a nonprofit board. And then I think lastly, I talk a lot or advertise or talk up my strategic development acumen. As we think sometimes of not-for-profit boards of being kind of loosey-goosey in how they approach things. But my experience has been that that's far from the truth, that often very well run and respected not-for-profits are run just as tightly as a for-profit organization. So the ability to provide strategic direction, strategic acumen is very, very important as a board member. And that is also something that I brand or advertise for myself.
Excellent. Thanks, Janet.
What I can build on top of what Janet shared is, I think it takes a lot of, honestly, it's an excellent exercise of self-awareness. Not only to think of what you're going to say and how you're going to present your experiences, your interests, but also to help you select what is a board that perhaps you're going to drive a great impact, but you're going to get something from that board for your continuous development. As good P&Gers, alumni or current P&Gers, we are in a growth journey for life. So I want to believe that not only we want to give something for this boards, but as well as we can take something from that experience and therefore be a better version of Juliana after that, and a better version of Mary, Peter, all of us. And to Janet's point, at least on United Way, and I tried to bring something similar to UNICEF when we built the first board in Brazil. They have a regular evaluation of the board. And actually, that evaluation is both about performance, skills, and the mission of the institution. Therefore, it becomes very clear, more than just the gender, really what are the skills that you're looking for in order to progress towards the mission that the institution have? How are we doing about that? And how do you refresh the group? So having been the chairman of both of those institutions, I've seen the intentionality in going out there and recruiting people that would complete skills that we did not have, but also would help us continue improving our own performance on the basis of a very thorough self-assessment. So I couldn't agree more with Janet that non-for-profit can be, can be a very good first step for you to get really a good training on what is a board. It is different than for profit, but I think if you're looking for an alternate, an opportunity to get started, that can be a very good opportunity. To my point of view, I'm sure Teri, that has the experience on both, perhaps can offer a more complete perspective than mine.
Thanks, Juliana.
I think I don't have a lot to add to what Janet and Juliana said so well, other than certainly, the thing that I think is sometimes overlooked is just how much capacity it really does take to be an effective and contributing board member, whether it's for profit or not for profit. And in some cases, the time commitment in a not for profit is actually greater because, as Janet said, you really are contributing resources in many cases that are not existent, and there might not be the sophistication or the capacity within the organization to really meet some of the more audacious goals that sometimes those organizations have. So that's the one additional key, is you're thinking about what are the skills and experiences that you think make you unique, that you're also ensuring that you have the capacity to deliver on those as you think about the opportunity, because it's just a bit of a, you never know what you're going to get into. Sometimes in the very large boards, so I sit on 4 large boards: Visa, Microsoft, Danaher, and Lululemon. And so all of those are very well-managed companies. So as a board member, the time commitment I have really is quite predictable up until something unexpected happens. And even in the best managed companies, something unexpected does happen. In not-for-profits, there is probably more predictability, but more consistent time requirement necessary.
Excellent.
Can I just build a little bit on this comment of the timing that sometimes is undermined? And I think also with our P&G background, which we're all committed to excellence in P&G. So I don't think we're going to join a board and be at halfway though. So I attended the meeting, but I didn't do the pre-reading, or I didn't really, that's not who we are. So I think we will come in and we will try to thrive like we've always done in our lives. It's a common strength of a P&G. And when I think about my own background and history, I've declined a few for-profit boards, because when I think about really that thought of time management, P&G, Juliana personally, nonprofit boards, that for me is very important. And then choosing and being able to also be at my peak when I'm joining other for-profit boards. I'm trying to be very selective on where I can drive an impact and get something back. So I think it all kind of connects back on your own intentional personal plan versus simply checking many boxes and therefore ending up in a very complicated place.
Excellent. It's a really good segue to a question that we have live that I'd love to answer. And I think, Teri, you hit on this a little bit. I think everybody actually did a bit, but the culture side of the board and understanding the culture of an organization, the culture of the board. Can you speak a little bit about how you decided that it was the right board for you or a good fit for you? And has there ever been an experience where maybe you've joined a board and realized, this isn't the right place for me? That question came from S. Serbenzi, and I love the question, so I want to ask it.
Sure. I can speak to that both on the for-profit and the not-for-profit side. I think when you are part of a board, whether it's for-profit or not-for-profit, it should be fun to be part of that board. You should respect and like the people on that board. And, so in addition to being committed to the mission of the organization, profit or not-for-profit, I think the whole experience should be fun. You should feel like you're learning something. You should feel like you're valued. You should feel like you're contributing. So those are all important attributes. As a not-for-profit board, you're a volunteer. So obviously, you want to feel like you're using your time in a worthwhile manner. I have had at least 3 experiences, one for-profit and 2 not-for-profit, where I have declined to be part of the board because the culture of the board just didn't fit for me. So in the case of one of the not-for-profits, huge not-for-profit, worldwide, raises billions of dollars, very prestigious. But and I was very committed to the objective of the boards or the mission, but the board itself, how they operated, the type of people on it, how they set priorities on what was important, and the fact that the board meeting that I attended as a test just was like, yuck, it wasn't fun. it was miserable. And again, I said, this is a very large, well-known organization, very prestigious. I declined because I knew that no matter how committed I was to the mission, it would be such a chore to be part of this organization. I think the other thing, when you start thinking about not-for-profit boards, different from for-profit boards, is you're often also a donor. So if you don't feel good about the organization, good about the group of people who are setting the long-term direction of the organization, you won't feel very good about writing a check for the organization. So, you really have to, for me, it's always about feeling good about, we all have limited time, as Juliana talked about, and feeling good about how I am using my time. And for me, as a retiree, fun is a very important factor in how I think about what I do and where I go.
Excellent. Thank you, Janet. Teri, Juliana?
I think Teri mentioned before the importance of really having a diligence to get to know the company and get to know some critical people that are in the board. And I would really not undermine that. In my very first experience in Brazil, United Way, I'll tell you that board was coming in from a complete reset and an organization that was coming from a big, difficult situation. And the reason why I engaged was, among others, a few people that I met from the board, and I felt they shared a similar passion and transformational experience, both the CEO of United Way in Brazil, as well as the chairman of the board and other colleagues there. So that diligence, thinking about you're being recruited and you are recruiting, kind of in a way, that perhaps is not that obvious. I mean, many of you guys in this call have left P&G and have had different professional experiences, but most of us enter P&G in the very, very early days of our career. So at that point in time, perhaps we don't feel we are so equipped to equally judge whether that is a great place to work. Now I'm talking P&G, but I think that is a muscle for us to develop, particularly with the boards of thinking we are recruiting as much as they are recruiting.
Excellent.
Well said. The only thing I would add to that is when you agree to join a board, it's a long-term commitment. And so like I'm on the long end, really. I've been at Danaher for 14 years. I've been at Microsoft for 10 years. And when I joined Visa more recently, they clearly are looking for someone who will be there 5 to 10 years. And so it is a really important commitment, and a lot will change over the course of 10 years. CEOs change, board composition changes, et cetera. But as Juliana said, it's just really important to do that due diligence. And particularly if you spent your entire career at P&G, I know when I changed companies the first time, I was shocked to learn just how different a culture could be in an industry that was so similar to P&G. And I was really naive about how to really assess that. And the more I've done board interviews and similar to Janet, there's some I've been excited about, some I've been not excited about. I've gotten better at building that skill of assessment, but it's really important.
So you both have talked P&G, right, as alum, as current. I think one of the questions that many of our listeners today are curious about are what you think the unique skills we as P&Gers bring to the table as board members. Is there anything specific that women from a P&G alum point of view bring versus others out there? And are there any challenges that your P&G background has put in front as you've been considering joining boards or finding a board that might suit you?
I've been gone the longest probably because I left P&G 24 years ago. So I've been gone a long time. And yet I still find myself using the things that I learned at P&G. I think as P&Gers, or P&G teaches all of us to be, good strategic thinkers, good problem solvers. I think it imbues us with this kind of can-do attitude, tenacity, resourcefulness. It gives us the ability to, extrapolate our learned experiences to address whatever the situation may be, no matter how unrelated. I also, even to this day, no matter what organization I find myself involved in, I still use like the OGSM template. It's because I find it so appropriate often in organizations that may not have anything like that. So, it gives us tools and all kinds of things that we can bring to bear, with the organizations that we work with. I guess the downside of that, and I believe both Juliana and Teri mentioned this, is not everyone, even those with corporate experience, have the same kinds of experiences or insights or tools that we bring to P&G. And sometimes I have to stop myself from saying, well, when I was at Procter Gamble, we did X, Y, Z over and over again, which can get on other people's nerves when they come from other corporations. One thing I would like to point out here is, and I mentioned this in the call we had with Ron separately, interestingly, my experience in Africa is not so much a matter of male, female, women on boards. Women are on boards, women lead boards. It's not an issue here. it culturally, what is more important is your education, your experience, your social attainment, whether or not you're married and have children, your age. And so my experience here on the African continent has been quite refreshing when it comes to this issue of being a woman on a board. Having said that, though, clearly as a woman, no matter where we are in the world, we have a lived experience that is different and very valuable no matter where we may find ourselves.
Excellent. So on that note, are there any blind spots as P&Gers or P&G alum that we may have? I think very, very funny that Janet mentioned when you leave P&G, you don't know this, Juliana, hope you may never know this. When you leave P&G and go to another big company, it's really easy to say, at P&G we, where's product supply? Like all these things that we take for granted every day. So yes, we do have to watch out for that one. But Teri, was there something you have for us on that?
I do have something. We know when you're on a board, you're part of a team, and at P&G we're used to working as part of a team. But usually each person on a team has a clear functional expertise. But at P&G, we're all super proactive and super accountable and super aggressive. And sometimes the skills we lack that are really important as being a board member is the recognition that at the board, you're all technically equals. You all bring different skills and experiences, hopefully, but you're all relatively equal. So it's important to remember to stay in your lane. And it's important to remember to contribute where you can uniquely add value or perspective that others cannot or have not, or that management doesn't have. And so I think the skills we sometimes need to sharpen up as Proctor alum or Proctor existing are listening versus leading, and following versus leading, because we are all leaders and we all have something really, really smart to say. But in a board context, so is everyone else. And sometimes we get so excited about what we have to offer from our P&G perspective that we don't have the discipline to step back and remember, is this something where I'm really contributing something unique, or am I just listening to myself talk? And can I be comfortable following until I have something unique to add? And those are muscles that we, particularly as we advance in the organization, we let soften a little bit.
Thank you, Teri. It's excellent.
I think that the incremental idea I could bring to what Janet and Teri correctly described, but is I think in the board, because we all come from different backgrounds, different from the history on P&G, that we kind of come from the same, even though we are different. I mean, the culture, the PVPs are so strong that you move locations and you feel like you are in the same office, that I think we neglect the investment that you need to have on just reading the room, truly understand the different motivations, so that what in P&G is normally so clear. We're going to delight the consumers. We're going to do what is right. We're going to develop the organization. We're going to grow top, bottom line, and trade the markets. I mean, any P&G should be able to describe success around the same recipe. Well, in a board, maybe the motivations are different. And actually, the definition of success is not the same. And I've found that the most constructive, productive boards are the one where we've invested enough time to read the room and create some connections that are not there default. And we've been able to create a common agenda for the board, so that, to Teri's point, you listen with curiosity and you figure out how you're going to build in a sea of equals versus the typical differences that you have within P&G. So that would be my build to the great comments of my colleagues.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, as we're in our final stretch here of 10 minutes, I feel that we could easily go another hour. So many great answers to really provoking questions. So I know I speak on behalf of those who have joined. Thank you. I'd like to close this with one word kind of answers here. If you were to give advice to any P&G alum looking to join a board, how they could be better prepared and how they could connect the dots to match their interest and opportunities. So in a nice, succinct way.
Okay. I said this a bit in the beginning, but be visible, volunteer for the organization, the not-for-profit that you may be interested in. Let people know you want to serve on boards, but be visible.
I think it's the very same line of thought, action versus perfection, kind of just get started. Get started on the school board, get yourself out there, and then you will build your experience. You're going to figure out, hey, there is a training that could help you. There's a lot of really structured ways, which normally better serve the P&G nature. Tell me step 1, 2, and 3. How do I go about it? But the beginning may just be get yourself started.
Excellent.
And mine is just a variant of both of those, and that is network, network, network. Every opportunity I've gotten, whether it was CFO or board, has come either from someone I knew along the way or someone who knew someone who knew someone I knew. And it emphasizes that building those relationships is worth the time, and maintain your reputation in those relationships is critical. Excellent.
And that's a great segue into talking a little bit more about the Women's Leadership Forum. I'm going to switch over to that. I do want to thank our amazing panel today, Juliana, Teri, Janet, in all different time zones, all different parts of the world. It has been really wonderful speaking with you. You've inspired me, and I'm sure everyone who joined. As a reminder, we'll do a really concise edit of our time together this morning and post this on the P&G Alumni Enrichment Series channel on YouTube, where you can watch this later. If you thought, oh, Juliana said something really great, I didn't have my pencil near me, you can go back and listen through. But thank you so much for your time and sharing with us. And so as we kind of wrap, a couple of things that I did want to make sure that we covered. The Women's Leadership Forum by P&Gers for P&Gers. This is open to all P&G women alumni. The vision of the forum is to be the most impactful and empowering professional women leadership network in the world, grounded in P&G values, with a mission of the forum fosters opportunities and enables impact for P&G women alumni worldwide. So in 2024, their key focus areas were around nurturing and leadership, enabling meaningful connections, and advancing women's professional journeys. And that really comes to life with the 2024 board program, which is what our session this morning was all about. So, so many opportunities to get involved with the WLF. Of course, there's our panel discussion similar to this through the Enrichment series. There are, of course, coming to our global conferences, joining local chapters of P&G alumni, and also joining the LinkedIn group, where you can get more information on what the Women's Leadership Forum does, as well as the foundation. It's an amazing group of talented P&G colleagues who have done some amazing things post P&G, and they're all about sharing their knowledge and experience. So definitely get involved. We did our Q&A while we went, but if you have any additional questions and you might want to send them over, feel free to send them directly to us, and we'll make sure that whether it's directed to Teri, Janet, or Juliana, we will get that to them. As a reminder, our next webinar, we skip November. We're going to be giving thanks all month long but we will be joined by Pankaj Bala on December 10th at 9 a.m. Eastern. He's the Senior VP and General Manager of Europe Grooming, and he'll be speaking on consumer marketing and his insights from his journey at P&G. So lots of great content coming up, and I can tell you, as you know, a host here of the webinar, we're looking for a great 2025 enrichment series. We're already starting to fill in the calendar, so keep your eyes open. Often check in at pngalums.com to find out what's going on, not only from a webinar point of view, but also for local opportunities to engage with local chapters. You can support the P&G Alumni Foundation by going to pngalumnifoundation.org. You could partner with us, so sponsor at pngalums.com. And again, if you want to volunteer, start, join a chapter, or you have any other thoughts, we got some great feedback on the last one, like, hey, we would love to see a roundtable discussion on this topic. Send them our way. We're always looking to make the curriculum most applicable to everyone out there. So we're at hello@pngalums.com. And as I mentioned, all of the webinars get edited post our session, and you can go and watch past recordings of some, previous P&G CEOs, the head of design, head of marketing and insights, our fabulous Mark Pritchard, all on there. You can find some great recordings with excellent nuggets along the way. But with that, I am going to leave us. We have a couple of things here. Oh, excellent. We've got some more fun stuff in here as well. I would like to really, again, thank everybody for their time. I would really urge our participants on the call today to get involved in the P&G Alumni Foundation and the Women's Leadership Forum, and look forward to seeing you again in December. And until then, I hope you have an amazing day, have a great holiday season, and we'll see you soon. Thank you so much again to Teri, Janet, and Juliana. You were wonderful, wonderful panelists. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Bye,
everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.